Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at Dr. Phil's episode. It's called "You Said It, Now You're Canceled." Um, a lot of individuals, and these are adults. That's the most disturbing thing about all of this. You have adults who are, and you guessed it, sensitive that enough to the point they want to cancel free speech without understanding how this might backfire on them at one point. So without further ado, let's go ahead and watch Dr. Phil.
I remember thinking when I was a kid, what would happen if all of a sudden people could read our uncensored minds? Think about that. Marriages, friendships, business, and government would not survive.
No.
Yet there are keyboard bullies on social media and judgmental finger pointers in real life who want to police every single word and thought they do not agree with. There are so many words and phrases that are off limits, it's hard to keep track. For example, some say peanut gallery is now classist and racist. First world problem is also classist. Tone deaf is ableist. Mom and dad assumes traditional gender roles. Seriously? Students on college campuses are also dealing with the self-censorship issue, which leads us to this question. Are we setting up the younger generation for failure? My next guest is a student who says he has learned firsthand about the risk of sharing his opinion. Now, he believes he was censored by college administrators over anti-leftist and anti-abortion flyers his chapter of Young Americans for Freedom posted.
We're here, to promote traditional American values, free speech.
The message we were trying to push was this is how many people have died under their communist regimes. The school apparently found it offensive and later took them down without notice.
To my knowledge, no other student groups have had their posters taken down or run into any problems concerning that. We have the right to First Amendment free speech just like anyone else, and we want to be able to have healthy discussions with people on campus, and if it's happening here, it's happening somewhere else.
Now, by the way, they got permission to post this from the administration before they did. They just didn't go around tacking up stuff that hadn't been approved. Correct, Alejandro? This was approved by the administration.
So the original flyers that we had up, which we were taking part in the campus-wide initiative project by the Young Americans Foundation for Freedom Week, in which we were celebrating the fall of the Berlin Wall. And we find it crucial that so many of us just don't understand how important this day of history was when the East was free from communism, from repression. And we wanted to bring this initiative to campus and show students, what, on this day the Berlin Wall fell. On this day, millions of people were liberated and no longer had to suffer under communist tyranny.
A lot of people don't even know this, that on the other side of the Berlin Wall, people would get shot trying to leave. Think about that. That's what communism in East Germany did. When people wanted to leave that oppression and try to cross or dig their way through the wall, they would get shot.
So yeah, we had approval, we put them up. Later, through emails obtained by the Young Americans Foundation to the FOIA, we found out that the staff complaints by students, they found it offensive, and the faculty conspired together to suppress our speech and to move somewhere else.
Okay, so you had them prominently on campus, and they had you move them to a fringe area on a kiosk where
So nobody can see it.
The catwalk and I could see them.
Yeah, so
but they put you out on the edge.
yeah, they put us out in the middle of nowhere. So right now, students can only enter the college through like one door, and the free speech kiosk is located in like this middle of nowhere by the grass. The only thing we have out there, the only warm bodies that are out there are the school geese, and we say we have the most conservative geese because when we tackle them the free speech kiosk, they always get to see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no students walked there. They told us go take it to the free speech zone or the free speech kiosk, which is just this like rotting board that's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and you admit that some complained that the flyers were triggering to them, that bothered them, and is there some validity to that?
So yeah, we have, through the FOIA emails, you can see that faculty members came up to certain administrators and say, hey, we have complaints from students saying that these posters are triggering, that these posters are offensive, and they were wondering if the school could take them down or if they were even approved in the first place, which they were. And I think it's kind of sad. If a student disagreed with what we were putting up, I wouldn't want them to complain against it. I would want them to, if they think we're wrong about our statistics, about our numbers, post something, post your own facts, post your own statistics, have a dialogue with us, come to one of our meetings and engage. And yeah, you know what? I disagree with what you're saying. Here's why. We would love to have that.
This is not the way that it used to be, and everybody says our generation was tougher than this generation and tougher.
So I will say this. So I went to FGCU, which is Florida Gulf Coast University down in Fort Myers, and Caitlin Bennett, if you guys don't know who she is, she's like the pretty Rapunzel girl with the AR-15 who was at, I think it was Kent State, I can't remember one of those universities, but I remember when I would go to campus all the time, there would be this man out there with, preaching and telling students that, hey, God is real and all this other stuff. There would always also be times where those who were against abortion would come out with the very graphic posters of the development, of fetus development and what happens when a baby is aborted and how their limbs are basically decapitated and all this other stuff. And I remember students obviously shying away, looking down at it. I mean, I did because I felt guilty for my past mistakes, but I never once saw students come up and berate the individuals there, just speaking, just wanting to tell girls that you have other choices, or even tell the preacher there that get the hell out of here, God isn't real, blah blah blah. I never once saw that. So when I saw Caitlin Bennett's video in which she did go to FGCU, I was very shocked. I was very it was very disconcerting to me. And I know when it comes to my undergrad and my grad, I am not sending any money or donating any of my money to these boosters or scholarships or anything like that because of this lack of freedom, of freedom of speech. This was not a thing when I was there, and I will not support universities that actively participate in teaching their students that they should not basically allow freedom of speech in society, or be intolerant to freedom of speech. I do not like that, and therefore you will not get my business or my money.
Why are college campuses, comedians won't go to college campuses anymore? They say there's no sense of humor there. You're going to say something that's offensive to their sensibilities. You're going to get attacked by the cancel culture.
Yeah. So I wrote a book called Unlearning Liberty back in 2012, trying to figure out why things were already not so great for free speech on campus. And I think that one of the things that happened was hyper-bureaucratization of universities. The expansion of the administrative classes way outpaced the number of professors. And I think the old guard of liberal professors and liberal, and I'm a political liberal, that were great on free speech started retiring. And I think that the lessons that a lot of these young people are learning from a very early age is that free speech is bad, essentially. And the thing that I find so funny about people trying to engage in the argument about what's going on campus is they kind of straw man it immediately into being just kind of like, oh, well, this is just what conservatives are complaining about. You know what? If you don't care that conservatives are getting in trouble on campus, and you should, but if you only care about liberals getting on trouble on campus, plenty of liberals get in trouble on campus. And what bothers me about this is because it's like one of the things that you're not supposed to talk about on my side of the fence, that there is a problem.
Liberals seem to be doing most of the complaining, but not all of the complaining. But
we've got stats on that too.
Right.
So when it comes to the administration class, the professors, okay, I will agree with him on that. And when you look at a lot of these administrators, a lot of the individuals who are administrators are female. God, we don't even get into the stats of the administrators that are women versus men. So you got these mommy figure type individuals trying to gatekeep freedom of speech at a university. Administrative class has definitely overblown that of the professor class, and it's starting to become more bureaucratic. And we all know that a lot of women are the ones who are in support of more sensitive society. So this is a problem that needs to be addressed. And just like our bureaucratic, our government needs to shrink, so does the administrative class in at these universities. Because let's just be real, these professors will get a complaint from a student, and then they go to the administrative office or the administrative individuals, and they are the ones who sit and decide and like basically make policies at the school that students should abide by. That needs to either shrink or disappear. The only administrative class that should be at school is the bursar's office, the academic. When it comes to academics, I don't think there really should be an administrative class for academics. I think that professors should be able to develop their own curriculum and teach that this is not in high school, this is not middle school. I believe professors should have freedom of academics to choose whatever topics that they want to choose, since they are the ones with the expertise, and no one who's an administrator should be dictating what professors should be teaching, period. But anyways, when it comes to these more liberal ideas, and then let's not kid ourselves. Most of the individuals that do go to college, you do tend to develop more of a liberal outlook on things. Like I've said, I've been, for the most part, because I thought liberalism was, rebelling against the establishment. For the longest in my life growing up, I was mostly a liberal. I did not want to be a part of the establishment. I didn't like following rules, especially when they made no sense, but yet people would blindly follow them, all in the name of not, stepping on someone's toes or stirring the pot. Sometimes you need to stir the pot because people are, society can get boring and mundane, and then everyone wants to copy each other. And I'm not a fucking robot. I'm a human who have a dynamic range of feelings and emotions and thoughts. Okay, and they're not going to be boxed into a manner in which I must capitulate to the whims of a, I don't know if you want to call it like systematic, but some systematic one notion, one size, one thought rule of law. And when it comes to society, that's just not me. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other individuals who do not conform so easily to those types of societies. So anyways, let's get back to this, Dr. Phil.
What's happening that we can't have conservative and liberal speakers on campuses? People go see them or not. They can debate them or not. But why do we not have an open exchange of ideas on campuses now?
I think we're conflating two things: speakers, entertainers, and comedians coming to campus versus the everyday experience. The one place that every student has to go is class. A student doesn't have to go to one of Tommy's speeches or to a comedian's performance, but they have to go to class. Classrooms are the spaces where they're supposed to at least be the contestation and the debating of ideas. I don't think that we teach students well enough in classrooms how to have those kinds of debates.
Yep.
And I don't think that there are enough professors who make room for that contestation of ideas to then have a spillover into how students interact with each other outside of class when there is a speaker like Tommy or a comedian who comes to campus with whom they disagree.
And why not?
He says
Why aren't professors talking about this? Why aren't they prepared? Because that's what's going to happen in the real world.
Yeah, I think that in large part, here's higher education's dirty open secret. Most professors never learn how to teach in their PhD programs. In 2022, one could go through an entire PhD program and not take a single course on college teaching. And then suddenly one becomes a professor. So, in many ways, professors cannot teach or model what they themselves have not been taught. So I think that that is one of the perennial failures of American higher education. We got to do better at, first off, teaching professors how to teach, but also how to deliberately and skillfully create the conditions within our classrooms that allow students with different points of view learn how to talk respectfully and civilly with each other.
Well, if
Okay, and then okay, the one thing that came out that stood out to me from that professor and what he had said in the most eloquent way is how to teach. These students who go through their PhD course, they're not they don't have to take a class in how to teach to students. They're they're not going to know. They're not going to be able to accept any debate that goes against what they learned in throughout class and throughout their PhD program. And the reason why I say that is because these individuals, when they go for their PhD, they're going to be a specialist in a particular field. So that's what they're going to research. They're going to put a lot of their effort and thought into how they're going to formulate their dissertation, what they're going to be a specialist on. And, 9 times out of 10, that's what they're going to think is the rule of law because, hey, they did all this research and this is their specialty. Someone who might not have come out with this idea, they are the ones who came out with this idea. So since no one's there to combat their ideas and, possibly say or possibly push back on some of their ideas, they're going to think that their ideas is the rule of law, and therefore they will teach it that in that manner. So it's like I don't want you to have any other thoughts that are different than my own because this is what I went to school for. This is what I know. And I'm one who wrote the book on it. In a way, I kind of think it's very narcissistic and when you think about it, because instead of teaching, it's like they are teaching, they're picking up the, how can I say this? They are exhibiting their profession in a manner that's coincides with the phrase what to teach instead of how to teach. And when you are a professor who sticks by what to teach, you can't accept anything outside of what you already know. And therefore, when you don't have any ideas bouncing back, when you don't foster that inside of a classroom, you end up with students who go out who, once they leave the course, instead of formulating their own ideas and their own opinions of the course, it's like they've now been indoctrinated with what you told them because this is what you had researched. And since you are an expert on this field, this obviously must be, this obviously it cannot be refuted. It is the law of the land. And I think that's where we have lost I feel that's where the higher education has lost its credibility because they are no longer fostering independent thought. It's just regurgitate. It's just intake, regurgitate, and spread. Intake, regurgitate, and spread, which in AKA means indoctrination. So, thank you for that, and thank you for watching. I'm gonna come with a part 2, and then part 2 is it gets a little crazy. We start going into actual phrases that they want canceled and why. And he's going to be taking these questions and answers from the audience, and some of their answers will shock you. So stay tuned, like, share, and subscribe.